Alrighty, so first of all, I just want to say that I actually did not watch last night's CONCACAF Champions Cup game. I was actually on the road for pretty much the whole day. Got back to the hotel relatively late as well, and just didn't really felt like basically doing the highlights and basically doing the review when I am just really tired. I mean, I mentioned before I have teased in terms of these brown liquid special, but yeah, these brown liquor special in terms of doing review that late into the evening, you can kind of tell in terms of my voice when I do these reviews so late into the night how I'm just absolutely out of it, and I just kind of feel like, you know what, it's better off to do it today. Especially, we'll definitely talk about the game that everybody want me to talk about for a very long time. But before we get to that game, let us actually talk about the first game, and let me get the notes up and also the board up as well. I also opened the blind here so that you get natural light as well. I didn't even turn on any of the lights right now, so it should be very interesting to see how this will go when it comes to the lighting. But anyway, let's first talk about the Galaxy and Mount Pleasant. So yeah, this game, kind of what you expected. The Galaxy should be able to move on into this one, though I will say that Mount Pleasant at least kind of put up with some of a fight in this one, especially in the second half when they were chasing to just trying to get at least a goal and give the Jamaican fans something to cheer about. Now, in the first half, 8 minutes in, Yoshida with the Galaxy first shot, but he missed wide before Davis denied Peck from close range. The Galaxy was definitely on the front foot, pressing for the opener, and they do. As in the 18th minute, Joe Klaus, finally, his curse is over. Remember how in the last game he had an absolute nightmare game against Mount Pleasant where he just could not finish and even had a goal that was disallowed because of his own doing. But yeah, he scored here from Miller to give the Galaxy a 1-0 lead. Edwards did look to respond, but he missed wide in the 21st minute before Peck would hit it right to Davis, as the shots were 5-1 for the Galaxy early in this one. Klaus would then hits it right to Davis before Brown hits it wide from close range. Edwards would then hits it right to Mark Sinkowski, and just like the first leg, Mount Pleasant definitely giving something for the Galaxy defense to think about. They did show some fight late in the first half, but we do head to halftime with the Galaxy leading 1-0. But in the second half, Mount Pleasant continued to show that fight. Edwards would hit the side netting before Angulin would put it wide from long range in the 53rd minute. Mount Pleasant definitely picked up where they left off, and even with a 4-0 aggregate lead, I don't think Greg Vanny's going to be very happy with the way that his team really kind of started off slow. I mean, yes, I understand it's 4-0, and I know you're going to have that complacency, but yeah, you still got to be professional out there. It just feels like the Galaxy almost feels like they put the foot off the gas way too much in this one. Brown would then hits one in the side netting despite having empty net, and yeah, this was really the moment for Mount Pleasant to get their opening goal. This was a huge mistake there from JT Markowski. He really got away with this one. Coming off his line, didn't get to the ball. Anytime when you're a goalkeeper and you come off your line, didn't get to the ball, yeah, you're going to get punished. And I think JT is very fortunate that they're playing against Mount Pleasant, not an MLS team, because I think most MLS team would have probably buried that one, and this game would have been tied up at 1 apiece. But that being said, in the 61st minute, the Galaxy does make it 2-0, as Gabriel Peck, he loved to score against Mount Pleasant. He scored a hat-trick in the last game against them. So he continued his scoring here from Sanabria to make it 2-0 in favor of the Galaxy, really kind of against the run of play because Mount Pleasant were better up to that point. Judy did look to respond, but he hits it right to Mark Sinkowski. But then in the 87th minute, guess who? It's Gabriel Peck again. See, I told you he loves scoring against a Jamaican side. He scored he scored unassisted here because it was Harbor Miller that had a shot that was saved, but Peck was pretty much Johnny on the spot to clean up that mess and put away the third goal. So yeah, in the end, repeat of what we saw in the first leg with the Galaxy winning 3-0 and 6-0 overall in the aggregate score. Shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 10 that the Galaxy had, 7 shots on goal for the 3 that Mount Pleasant has, 5 shots off target for the 2 that the Galaxy had, no shots on block for the 1 that Mount Pleasant has, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that Mount Pleasant has in this game. And normally I said that, whenever an MLS team does well in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, especially against a Caribbean team, you wonder whether or not that can translate back in MLS play. And as we kind of seen throughout this season, when an MLS team just completely destroyed a Caribbean team, yeah, it hasn't really kind of worked out where their season kind of continued to be good and that they can carry this momentum into to MLS play. But we'll see whether or not that might be the case for the Galaxy. I mean, they're definitely hoping to do so because it's just not been a great start to the season once again for this LA Galaxy side. Now, that being said, let us now talk about the main event, because this has been the one that I'm pretty sure everybody has been wanting me to talk about. And I probably should have said in the beginning of the video, just make sure you get to the 5th minute of the time stamp in terms of talk about this game, because, yeah. You know, I watched a lot of CONCACAF Champions Cup game involving MLS team. I've been doing it for the past couple of years, that is, and I've seen the highs and the ups and the lows of MLS team playing against their CONCACAF Champions Cup opponent, especially facing against Liga MX's team down in Mexico. But I gotta say, this is probably the most heartbreaking loss and the biggest collapse I've seen in an MLS team done when it comes to facing against a Liga MX opponent down in Mexico. And that's saying something, because, you know, this result kind of in some way is a little bit familiar to what we saw a couple years ago when New England had that 3-0 advantage against Pumas and only to blow it down in Mexico and lose in a PK shootout. Well, you know, this was kind of very similar, except the fact that Cincinnati even did it quicker in this one. But the fact that what makes this even more heartbreaking for Cincinnati is the fact that they got an away goal. Like, you would have thought that was enough for them to move on if they got the away goal, and then they decided to go road heat mode. Yeah, when you go road heat mode against a Liga MX team down in Mexico, it usually never works whatsoever, and to no one's surprise, it didn't work in this game either. Now, in the first half, just 5 minutes into this game, Tigres would take the 1-0 lead as Aguirre would score from Garza to make it 1-0 in favor of Tigres. That was the first shot of the game as well, and yeah, not the start that Cincinnati wants to do. Like, the last thing you want to do is give Tigres some hope and give Vulcan definitely some energy to feed, and I gotta say, yeah, Vulcan definitely erupted in this game as well. Herrera then looked for another, but he missed one in the 7th minute. But then the 10th minute, he would make it 2-0 in favor of Tigres as he scored from Bernetta to make it 2-0 in favor of Tigres. Just an absolute disastrous start for Cincinnati. This is the last thing you need to do. Now, all of a sudden, you have that 3-0 advantage cut into just like a 1-goal advantage, and this is only like the 10th minute into this game, and you also kind of just sense that the collapse is imminent with this team. And in many ways, I was kind of not surprised the fact that Cincinnati eventually found a way to completely choke this game away, because there were warning signs that was the case. I mean, this season, Cincinnati has not played well whatsoever, and I know Cincinnati fans will say that, well, you know we did beat Tigres in the first leg. Well, yeah, but remember, that was only the first leg. I even did warn people that just because you have a 3-0 lead heading into the second leg, it usually doesn't mean it's always safe. It doesn't take much for Tigres to come back, especially of how good they are at home, and especially the fact that Cincinnati just lost 6-1 to New England. And yes, I know Cincy fans will say that, well, they kind of played some of their backup in that game. Well, yeah, but they put in the starters in that game in the second half, and they still were giving up goals. I think that is probably the most alarming thing if you're a Cincinnati fan, that the fact that you put in your starter and you're still giving up goal against a team that hasn't won a single game. Yeah, there was definitely an alarm bell sign, and especially on the defensive end. It was just not at it in this game whatsoever against Tigres, just like they did against New England. Echenike then puts it high from long range before Robinson puts it wide from close range. And to be fair, Cincinnati did kind of ride out the original Tigres storm. They're now looking for that crucial away goal to get themselves a bit of an advantage. Bernetta then hits it right to Sautano before he puts it high from long range in the 37th minute. Tigres was definitely roaring back and trying to ramp up the pressure. Cincinnati, it looked like it was just nursing until we get to halftime. It feels like Pat Nolan really just want to get to halftime to make some adjustment. Sautano would deny Herrera from long range in the 42nd minute. And good news for Cincinnati, they did nurse that pressure before we hit to halftime, and we head to halftime with Cincinnati still having that fringe 1-goal lead in the aggregate score, but they're down 2-0. And whatever Pat Nolan said to his team and some of the tactical adjustment that this team did, it did not work whatsoever. In fact, it was a repeat of what we saw in the beginning of the second half. Tigres immediately scored just 50 seconds in as Herrera would score from Aguirre to make it 3-0 in favor of Tigres. It was a great goal there from Herrera, but you kind of have to question Sautano here. I mean, this one was kind of hit there toward the near post. I think Sautano, he didn't read that one until it was relatively too late, so couldn't quite get to it. I think he also kind of got something off of that as well. But yeah, that is one that, I might be harsh when it comes to goalkeepers sometimes in terms of save that they should be made, but I think that one you probably say that Saltano, with the quality that he has, he's got to do better in terms of that moment. And things gets worse for Cincinnati, because just as he thought that Tigres has complete the comeback, they would now take the lead in the aggregate score as Aguirre would score again, this time from Herrera. So the two guys that scored the first two goals in quick succession would do the same thing in the first 4 minutes of the second half. And yeah, the collapse is basically complete, and it's just basically a repeat of what we saw in the first half. Cincinnati just did not start on time whatsoever, and when you don't start on time against Tigres, especially if you're playing now Vulcan, yeah, that of course can happen. But yeah, Al Vulcan was definitely alive. I mean, the atmosphere was absolutely electric up to this point, and I thought, yep, this could be a long night for Cincinnati as well. But to their credit, they did at least show a little bit fight, just like what we saw in the first half, where they started really rocky, but kind of got into it. It kind of happened in the second half as well. Giddy had a shot that was deflected wide. Denke would then miss it wide in the back post. Looks like Cincinnati, just like the first half, have ride out the original storm that Tigres had. Now they look for the vital away goal, and this time they got it. As in the 65th minute, Kevin Denke would score from Evander to make it 3-1, or not, I'm sorry, not 3-1, 4-1 in this game. I kind of lost track of the score a bit there, but that was the vital away goal that Cincinnati was looking, because with that goal, they're now going to be moving on into the next round, and it feels like maybe that's what Pat Nolan feel like that was going to be the case, because, again, this is where Cincinnati decided to park the bus. And I'm telling you, how many times I've said that this is a bad idea when you face against a Liga MX team. And I know some people will say, well, maybe it's because of the altitude, maybe kind of the fatigueness. That should not be an excuse. And especially the fact that it shouldn't be the altitude, because this game was taking place just outside of Monterrey. And Monterrey is actually one of the few places in Mexico that you don't actually have to play in altitude. I think it's like 2,000 feet above sea level, which is still a little bit high, but nothing compared to what we saw San Diego had to do playing 8,000 feet above altitude. And especially with the way that they kind of rest their players against New England, there should be no excuses in terms of the fact that this team feels tired, and just think that, sitting back and parking the bus would be a great idea against a Tigres team that has a lot of weapons going forward on the attacking end. Loriana didn't look to respond, but he was denied by Celentano, and Herrera was there in the back post to hit it into the empty net, and he somehow struck the post there. That definitely was a warning shot for Cincinnati, because that should have been 5-1 up to this point. Bernetta then puts it high from long range. Tigres was definitely roaring back. Cincinnati was clearly in row heave mode, and I even said that always never works whenever an MLS team play in Mexico. Lainez would then puts it wide from long range, and then he hits it right to Saltano in the 6th minute of stoppage time. Gignac would then hits it right to Saltano in the 8th minute. Cincinnati, they were just on the tight ropes up to this point. But as the time winds down, you just think maybe they've done enough. Maybe, just maybe, they somehow escape this game and get a huge victory. That, nope, in the 9th minute of stoppage time, Gorian would score. He scored from Gignac to make it get 5-1 in this one, and I mean, yep, never mind, because, Cincinnati, they give up a lot of long-range effort, and some of these long-range effort was amazing. I mean, the 4th one that was scored by Herrera, that was actually pretty good in terms of him kind of doing a little scissor kick to go in. But you would have thought that with all these long-range effort that Tigres made, you would have thought that maybe there should be some closing down, and you also would have thought that maybe there should be some marking at the top of the box from the Cincinnati defense. But nope, nobody marked Gorian there. He pretty much had a red carpet to shoot from the outside the box, and yeah, that is not a guy you want to leave a red carpet in terms of shooting from range there. He can definitely hit it from those long range, and just like that, it was 5-1, and Al Vulcan erupted like never before. I mean, that was, I've seen a lot of games in terms of MLS team going down to Mexico to play in the infamous Al Vulcan, but that was probably the loudest I've ever seen it erupted, because yeah, that completed the incredible comeback that Tigres had, and submit probably the greatest collapse we have ever seen, and the greatest heartbreak we have ever seen an MLS team has in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I mean, this is not even free space. It's disappointing. This is just downright humiliation there from Cincinnati. And yeah, The shots in this one, 23 shots compared to 9 that Cincinnati has, 12 shots on goal compared to 1 that Cincinnati has, 3 shots off target compared to 5 that Tigres had, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that Cincinnati has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to the 43% possession that Cincinnati has in this game. And I gotta say, for Cincinnati, I also would not be surprised if this result can even has a huge impact in terms of their league play. I mean, I know if there's some maybe just some silver lining that Cincinnati fans would say is the fact that, well, at least this is done and now we can focus back in league play. Well, New England fans said the same thing when they blew that 3-0 lead against Pumas. They never look the same and miss out on the playoffs. And I'm not saying that it could be a possibility. If that is a possibility, then that would be a huge shock as well, considering with all the talent that Cincinnati has had, this team should not be missing out on the playoffs. And I also don't want to say that maybe Pat Nolan's job could be in a little bit jeopardy, even though I know there are a lot of Cincinnati fans that are already starting to maybe want Pat Nolan to be fired from this team. But yeah, this is kind of a resort. It's not going to be an overnight thing where you can just recover straight away. This is going to be a resort that definitely can damage the psyche of all those players throughout the entire season. And that, yeah, this is where we're going to really find out in these next couple of games for Cincinnati of whether or not if they can shake off of that. It's not easy to do whatsoever. I mean, I as I said, I've seen a lot of collapses with MLS team playing against a Liga MX opponent down in Mexico, but this just feels like it's going to leave a scar that is going to be very hard for Cincinnati to recover. So, yeah, we'll see how they'll, of course, do in these next couple of games. And again, I know this might be unthinkable to say, and I even said this before, where I don't know if Pat Nolan, his job is really up in the air, consider all the good things that he has done with this team and all the success that he has done. But this is a league that when it comes to firing head coaches, teams in front office have started to become more aggressive than ever before. And when the result doesn't happen, then yeah, the door is definitely going to be shown toward the head coach itself. And you just wonder if that maybe could be the case again. And maybe this is again similar to what I said about Cincinnati. It feels like they're at the Philadelphia Union Circus 2022 stage where, yeah, they're kind of running out of time when it comes to the core that they have. And if things doesn't go well, if they keep running it back and it doesn't resort the same thing, then yeah, maybe there might be some changes that will be made. And we even saw it with the Union as well. When things kind of got really bad for this team, they had to eventually make the huge decision to fire Jim Curtin and bring in another guy in. And won't be surprised if it might be the same case if this resort that not only is painful for Cincinnati fans to deal with, but if it lingered into league play and they have a really mediocre season, wouldn't be surprised if Pat Nolan might find himself in the hot seat sooner than what we thought that he would be. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at this review of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, yeah, let's just say it's been pretty rough when it comes to MLS team facing against their Liga MX opponent. I mean, besides maybe San Diego, what they did earlier, yeah, let's say that it just hasn't really quite worked out. But then again, as we get into the quarterfinal, this is where it really be a determination, because there's going to be a lot of MLS team that's going to be facing against Liga MX's opponent, and especially some good MLS team that is going to be facing against Liga MX's opponent now. So this could be a good measuring test now to see how they, of course, will do. And if they do well, maybe we might see another MLS team make it all the way to the final. It's been that way for a lot in these past couple of years. Maybe this might be it again. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of both of these games, especially this game itself. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.